Hi there, it's Wednesday the 15th of July 2020. We're continuing to look at how to find your path through life. How to find your path through life. And we'll be looking at the story of Ruth in the Bible and looking at her path through life and learning lessons from it. The first lesson was that we have to be prepared for the unexpected, because your life journey will never go as you expect it to go. And you have to be prepared for that and be willing to embrace the twists and turns and changes that come along life's path. Secondly, yesterday we looked at the fact that we should not let bitterness be our guide. That often there are things in life that happen that can be very troublesome and very difficult to deal with emotionally and in other ways. But if we allow bitterness to come into our lives and to become our guide, then it will only lead us into dead ends in life and we will never journey on. And today we're looking at the fact that we have to remember that you reap what you sow in life. Remember that you reap what you sow in life. So remember, the story of Ruth is that she was a Moabitess from the land of Moab, and that a woman, Naomi, came from Judah to her country, Moab, and Ruth married one of her sons. Unfortunately, he died, and she decided to return back to Naomi's home country in Judah and to live with her there. Unfortunately, Naomi had become a little bit bitter because of what had happened to her, but she eventually gave that bitterness to God, which is the good news. But what happened next to Ruth as she went to this strange country, this foreign country for her, with just her mother-in-law, with nobody to take care of her? There was no National Health Service, there was no welfare system. And so she said to her mother-in-law, basically, what are we going to do for food? And her mother-in-law said, well, my husband has a relative, Boaz, and he has fields. Go to the fields and go round the edges of the field and see if you can gather up some bits of corn or wheat or barley and bring those back and we'll eat those. When she went to the field, Boaz saw her there and had heard her story, had heard how Ruth had decided not to stay in her home country, but to come to this foreign country to be with her mother-in-law and to support her mother-in-law. And he was so touched by that story, he said to Ruth, do you know what? Don't glean on the edges. Come into the middle. Get some of the stalks. Get some of the good grain. I've told my workers in the field who you are. I've told them not to harm you or take advantage of you. But I want to bless you because of your kindness towards your mother-in-law. In fact, this is what Boaz says in chapter 2, verse 11. He says, I've been told all about you, what you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and your homeland and came to live with a people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. You know, Boaz saw that by him caring for Ruth, he was in fact hiding Ruth under God's wings, giving her refuge. Quite amazing, such a beautiful story. And you know, the truth of that story is that because Ruth had sowed kindness by going to the home of her mother-in-law to be loyal to her, because she had sowed that kindness, she was now going to reap kindness from Boaz. Because what you sow, you will reap. And you know, in your journey through life, wherever you are in life's journey, you know that if you are kind to people as you go through your journey of life, you will reap kindness back. I can remember somebody that I was kind to earlier in my life, later in my life, told me about a job opportunity that I would never otherwise have heard of, and it became a job that I took up the post of, and it was a great job to have. And I reaped the benefit of that kindness I had shown that lady earlier in my life. And you know that to be true, don't you? You know that if you will just sow some kindness, sow interest in other people's lives, take notice of people, whether it's your employer or your fellow employees, whether it's members of your family or people within your community, or people who are less fortunate than yourself, people who are begging on the streets, if you will sow some kindness to them, if you will give to whoever you can give to, then God promises that He is not anybody's debtor, and He will repay your kindness in your life. And you will find your life journey will be enriched by giving to others. So if you want to find your path through life, one of the lessons to learn is to remember that you reap whatever you sow. So sow generously and you will reap generously. God bless you. Speak to you again tomorrow.